So I'm a Daytonian, if not by residence, then that's where my school is, and that's where my graduate school is, and that's where my perspective is coming from. So when that mass shooting happened this weekend, that happened to my community, and so to hear it politically discussed as whether or not this was the act of someone with a mental illness, I can tell you that via psychological theory, that no, um, typically mental illness is not a part of mass murder. Uh, it can be part of it can be part of any murder. It can be part of individual murder or serial killing and things like that. But typically, when you look at mass murder in psychology, you look at sociological and access issues as far as is this person encouraged by their society to dehumanize other people and to and do they have the access to the sorts of instruments to enact their rather common impulses? The impulse to do violence is rather common, and it's not that interesting on its own. Everyone has an instinct to violence, be it towards themselves, their family, the people around them, their coworkers, whatever. But typically, people don't act on any of those unless there's a dehumanization involved, and they specifically wouldn't act on it in a wholesale fashion where you destroy the lives of multiple people at the same time if there wasn't some kind of dehumanization involved where these people uh, were no longer people and they no longer mattered. So that's not a mental health issue, that's a sociological issue. There's a big difference between the two. Um, People with mental health conditions, with, really kind of grand delusions, including violent ones, are rarely violent towards other people. And even if they are, it's so sporadic and so disorganized that it certainly would never escalate to anything resembling mass murder. When we look at mass murder and specifically militarized cultures, it's way more systematic than that, and it can be easily parsed out, and we see this a lot with state violence, like war criminals and cops and things like that, where you can dehumanize a population and brutalize them, and that's not something that requires a mental illness to do. It just requires dehumanization. So, to keep this very short, that's the difference, and that's why the mental health crisis involving gun violence is not a real thing. So, yeah, um, if you want to do something about mass shootings in America specifically, you would have to deal with either the sociological aspects of why people perform violence. That would be hate crimes and things pertaining to that, where we would have to make sure that we live in a more healthy and inclusive culture rather than one where white supremacy and misogyny exists, where we would have to limit access to mechanisms to enact the violent tendencies that people develop that have, nothing to do with mental illness. I don't believe either of these murderers were mentally ill. I don't believe that the other murderers that we've discussed on this channel before were mentally ill. I just believe that they were a product of the society that yeah, we're have certainly reap what you sow. It's that sort of thing. So yeah.